Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to Spirit of Justice. Previously, we cross-examined Soren Sprocket, the fiancé of the defendant. And, well, we managed to prove that he must have gone to the Vista deck through a method other than... Well, no, that's not quite true, really. We tried to say that he went through the emergency exit hatch and clambered up along the side of the dirigible to take a shortcut to the Vista deck to try and save his spouse, but Soren ended up admitting that no, that's not true. I went through the normal way, through the hold, and took the elevator there with Pierce. And now we need to cross-examine him some more and learn some more details. Something tells me he's not quite ready to be forthcoming. Actually, Is that journal he's holding? Why do I remember I could have sworn earlier in the game the journal he was using to meticulously write down every event that happens to him had browner pages and a more worn cover. Actually, wasn't it a hardback cover? Am I making that up? Well, look, I'm thinking that Soren has some brain injury from the car crash he was in that made him lose his memory constantly, and he had to keep a written journal to remind himself what he had been doing that day. And I suspect Pierce may have given him a fake journal, but I'm not sure. And you know what? Now that I think about it, we have this written note here. Yeah, Bloomsbury's note. The writing is smudged as though written by a right-handed person. Apparently, the handwriting is Bloomsbury's own. However, Bloomsbury is a left-handed person, therefore he couldn't have written this. So, if it truly is handwritten, then whoever wrote it can perfectly mirror the handwriting of other people. And if Pierce Nickety, the butler, could mimic handwriting, he could absolutely give Soren a fake journal and write whatever he wants in Soren's own handwriting and fool the potentially brain-injured Soren about the differing events from the truth to help doctor this crime scene. I think I'm onto something. But regardless, we should hurry up and get going. The truth is, I went to the Vista deck with Pierce. That's why my name doesn't appear on the hold entry record. I was badly injured from being stabbed, but I was frantic. By the time we reached the scene, it was all over. Well, this doesn't help me one bit. Mr. Sprocket, you've concealed information from us time and time again. Who do you think you are, treating this court of law with such irreverence? That being said, I do appreciate the testimony you gave just now. Thanks to you, we now know why your name doesn't appear on the entry record. Now there are no more inconsistencies in the witness's testimony. That's Mr. Edgeworth for you. He never leaves a loose end dangling. You okay, Nick? I wouldn't exactly call this situation okay. Somehow I'll have to coax the information we need for an opening out of him. If I even can, that is. The truth is, I went to the Vista deck with Pierce.
Hold it!
You didn't mention this because you didn't want Mr. Nickety to fall under suspicion. Is that because he has something to hide? I just didn't want the police to take up his time with all their questions, that's all. Neither the company nor the household would function smoothly without him. I see. Wow. It sounds like Pierce is absolutely indispensable to the Sprockets. Anyway, getting back to your statement, When did you meet up with Mr. Nickety? We met up on my way to the Vista deck. I think Pierce and some of my relatives were on another floor. But Pierce heard the commotion and came running to my side, to my aid. You could hear the pandemonium all the way from another floor. Mr. Wright, would you like the current statement added to the witness's testimony? Why not? Yes, please, Your Honor. Very well. Pierce heard the commotion and he came running.
Hold it!
Did Mr. Nickety come alone? I believe some of his subordinates were with him, but I don't remember exactly how many. He may say there were others, but seeing how they pulled that second reception off, I can't completely trust anything he has to say either. I see. So you, Mr. Nickety, and a few others headed to the Vista deck, is that right? That's right. That's why my name doesn't appear on the hold entry record.
Hold it!
Your name doesn't appear on the hold entry record because you entered with Mr. Nickety using his keycard. That's right. So I guess the hold entry record doesn't matter as much as we thought. But now that Soren's saying he was with Pierce and a few others, it's pretty tough to refute that statement. What's the matter, Mr. Wright? Cat got your tongue? Did you finally realize there's no point in continuing this trial any longer? Of course not. I'll wipe that smug look off your face. Mr. Sprocket, please continue with your testimony. I was badly injured from being stabbed, but I was frantic.
Hold it!
Speaking of your injury, how are you doing now? The knife wound is... Knife wound? What? The knife wound is deep and continues to throb with pain. Fortunately, my internal organs were spared, but one wrong move would have spelled the end for me there. Even so, I've seen you up and about all over the place since the incident. I'm only following my doctor's orders to perform some daily light exercises. Mr. Wright, would you like Mr. Sprocket's statement about his condition added to his testimony? Yes! Not that it appears especially relevant to me. Should I have him add it? Yes. Yes, Your Honor. I'd like to have it added to his testimony. I see. Very well. The knife wound is quite deep and continues to throb with pain.
Hold it!
Your injury was really that deep. Luckily, it missed my internal organs, otherwise I wouldn't be alive right now. According to his doctor, his injury will take about 3 weeks to heal. There's no way someone with that kind of injury could have gone along the outside wall. But he might have been able to with a burst of adrenaline brought on by the pain. Adrenaline, is that your answer for everything? In a court of law, the only thing that matters is evidence, not rampant speculation. At least I admit it's scientific rampant speculation. May I continue? Yes, of course. By the time we reached the scene, it was all over.
Hold it!
So you still insist that you reached the Vista deck after the murder had occurred? Is that correct? Yes, that's right. Ellen must have killed him. There's no other explanation. I guess whether Pierce was with Soren or not doesn't change the outcome. I guess not. In fact, more witnesses actually makes it worse for us. So another cover-up, huh? That Soren has too many secrets. I bet he's still hiding other things, too. That's definitely a possibility. But in a situation like this, what we have to do is go back to the basics. You mean go over the testimony and check for any lies or inconsistencies? You got it. All right, Nick, let's go for it. The knife wound. Nuh-uh, you were stabbed with a candelabra.
Objection!
Mr. Sprocket, you just said your injury is a knife wound, didn't you? But the weapon you were stabbed with was this candelabra. A fact I know you're quite aware of. Very well. This is what I heard directly from Master Soren himself. As you surmised, Master Soren was stabbed by Gloomsbury on the day of the murder. It happened after the first wedding reception. The happy couple was in the reception hall when, suddenly, Gloomsbury appeared. He attacked Miss Ellen and tried to take her away. Master Soren went to stop him and found himself in a struggle with Gloomsbury. That is when Master Soren was stabbed with the candelabra, he said.
Objection!
It must have been a simple memory slip that made him misspeak. It happens to everyone. Oh, I think this doesn't happen to just everyone. It has nothing to do with the case. You must be pretty desperate to point out something so minute.
I have to agree, Mr. Wright. You hardly need to make such a big deal over such a small mistake.
But I contend that it's an important inconsistency. Besides, I couldn't find anything else. This is the only thing I have to go after. And I say it's not important. Now, let's not waste any more time on this matter.
I agree. Everybody has a little memory lapse every now and then.
Oh, okay, I think I'm right.
Hold it!
But, Your Honor, please let me explain.
But can you? Can you really explain to this court what makes this slip so important?
Yes, I can, Your Honor. After all, it was Soren himself who told Pierce that he had been stabbed by a candelabra. This is more than a simple memory slip. There has to be some kind of reason for it.
Well, Mr. Wright, please explain why the witness's slip of the tongue is so important.
The point to focus on here is why the witness would mistake the weapon used to stab him. Think carefully, Phoenix. This could very well change the course of the trial.
I see. So why did the witness make that mistake, Mr. Wright?
Mr. Sprocket identified the wrong weapon used against him because he has no memory of it. He doesn't remember the incident, let alone the weapon used against him. Not only that, but I believe Mr. Sprocket has some sort of memory disorder. Therefore, the defense contends that Mr. Sprocket's testimony thus far is invalid.
Objection!
Just because you can't find a flaw in his testimony, you want to throw it all out. Your baseless claim is nothing but pure slander of the witness's character.
Mr. Edgeworth is correct, Mr. Wright. Can you explain your grounds for making this claim?
Of course, Your Honor. Think of what Soren has said, how he's behaved. That's where we'll find a clue.
Very well, let's hear your argument then.
My grounds for claiming that Mr. Sprocket has a memory disorder is his notebook. The notebook he always has with him. I saw daily events and information about the people around him recorded in it.
Like a diary, perhaps?
No, Your Honor. It's much too detailed to be an ordinary diary. It's more on the order of a database, actually.
A database, you say?
That's right. That's right. For some reason, Mr. Sprocket is apparently unable to retain memories. That's why he writes every little detail of his life down in his notebook.
Objection!
How could you possibly know that for sure? He might just be an extremely compulsive person. I thought so too myself, at first. To be honest, we accidentally got a stain on that notebook yesterday. You mean you got a stain on it? Hey, you're the one who tried to grab it out of my...
Objection!
Never mind whose fault it was. Just get to the point already. Right, sorry. Mr. Sprocket. The page Miss Fay got a stain on yesterday. That's the page with the details of your stabbing on it, isn't it? No, I only write in this notebook because I'm very compulsive. Now drop the subject already. Sorry, but I'm not convinced. I noticed an odd fact about your notebook, Mr. Sprocket. On the earlier pages, you used it to write down invention ideas. But after a certain date, you started writing down a lot more, and in much more detail. I believe your memory disorder stems from what happened on that date.
Something so monumental, it caused a memory disorder, Mr. Wright.
You don't know what you're talking about. Sorry, but I do know what I'm talking about, and this is the proof. This is the thing that caused Mr. Sprocket's memory disorder.
Take that!
You were involved in this car accident too, weren't you, Mr. Sprocket? And the shock of losing your beloved older sister is what caused you to develop your memory disorder. Is this true, Mr. Sprocket?
Well, is it?
Mr. Sprocket. It's true. That accident did something to my mind. What? Ever since that day, every time I go to sleep, I lose my memories. And when I wake up, the most recent thing I can remember is the day I lost my sister. It's as if I'm constantly going back in time. Oh. Oh. Oh, okay. Oh boy.
What? That's truly tragic.
An inconsolable time traveler who goes back in time whenever he goes to sleep. Besides, time travelers do exist, you know. But you wouldn't understand. So that's what Soren meant. He was talking about himself. The reactions of the people around me each time I awoke made me aware of my condition. That's why I decided to write everything down in my notebook, so I could move forward. So the only memories you have since that day are the ones written in that notebook. That's right. And since the page about your stabbing got stained, you couldn't read from it, could you? There's just one more thing I'd like you to clarify for me, Mr. Sprocket. Exactly what are your feelings toward the victim?
Mr. Sprocket's feelings towards Dumas Gloomsbury.
That's right, Your Honor. The witness said that every time he wakes up from sleep, his mind goes back to the day his sister died. Mr. Wright, you can't mean. Mr. Sprocket. Your pent-up feelings of anger and resentment towards Mr. Gloomsbury for the accidents were renewed each and every time you woke, were they not? But you couldn't take it anymore, so you turned to murder, isn't that right?
What? Mr. Wright, are you saying that the witness murdered Mr. Gloomsbury for revenge?
Well, Mr. Sprocket? Miss Wyatt. Your Honor, I did it. I killed Mr. Gloomsbury. I knew it. I knew she would say it. God damn it. No. What? Miss Wyatt, what are you trying to do? Don't tell me you're still thinking of going that route. Soren is innocent. He can't be found guilty. Take me instead. Ellen, please try and get a hold of yourself. I guess she really meant it. Soren didn't do anything wrong. I'm the one who should be convicted.
Are we to understand that you're confessing your guilt?
No. Now wait just a minute. Ellen, why would you cover for me? After I testified that I thought you must have killed him. I'll admit, I couldn't believe my ears at first. But all I want is for you to be happy. Your happiness is my happiness, Soren. But without my notebook, I'd even forget those feelings of yours by tomorrow. Knowing that, do you still feel this way? You've loved me all this time, the same way you did before the accident. That's how I know that you're the same person I've always loved. No disorder can change that. Ellen. Your Honor, there are 2 things I'd like to correct.
2 corrections? What are they?
First of all, I want to withdraw one of my statements. That's right. Dumas was killed by Ellen. Without memories to rely on, I took the police completely at their word. You can't be serious. So that means Soren never really doubted Ellen in the first place, did he, Nick? Ellen really does love Soren with all her heart. But in order to save her, I'll still have to go after Soren. I hope you can forgive me, Ellen.
And what is your other correction, Mr. Sprocket?
The truth is, I never felt anger or resentment towards Dumas about my sister. What? Why not? That's because the one who caused the car accident was me. What?
Order! Order in the court! Please continue, Mr. Sprocket.
I'm the one who killed my sister. To protect my career and my future, my father made Dumas take the blame, in exchange for money and the position of lead servant. Whoa. So you see, Dumas must have held a grudge against me, not the other way around. And he must have attacked Ellen to get his revenge on me. Are you sure about all of this, Mr. Sprocket? Very sure. It's all been written down in detail in my notebook.
That notebook is important evidence supplying background to this case. I must insist you submit it as evidence.
Let's take a look. Nothing but ideas for his inventions in this until March 8th of last year. Chronicled each day in excruciating detail. Okay, no new information. The lawyer said I had turned to murder, but that's just not true. However, it is true that my older sister and Dumas are both dead because of me and my negligence.
I just glanced through Mr. Sprocket's notebook. I wasn't able to read the part about when he was stabbed due to the bloodstain. But what's written here about his sister's car accident is exactly as he stated.
Your Honor, as long as it matches what's written in that notebook, can we still take the witness's testimony as valid in spite of his memory disorder?
Yes, I believe we can.
I understand now that the witness's memory is in disarray. Well, if what Mr. Sprocket himself wrote in this notebook is true, then that means by the time Mr. Sprocket's party reached the scene, the victim had already been killed. Edgeworth's right. I'm still in the same bind as before. But should I really simply accept the contents of the notebook as a substitute for Soren's memory?
Well, Mr. Wright, what do you think? Will you accept Mr. Sprocket's notebook as an official representation of his memories?
No, because there was a brief moment, but there was a moment when Soren was not the one in command of the notebook. There was a moment where someone could have written down anything they'd like. Someone who I suspect has a knack for copying down handwriting. Oh man, did I really call it? Wait a minute, Your Honor. The defense requests a chance to examine the notebook to see if it's trustworthy.
Very well, but be quick about it.
Thank you, Your Honor. So, how should we examine it? Well, we should look at it from all different angles to see if there's anything suspicious. Since 1904, huh? Wait, when did the Wright brothers fly? Well, not those Wright brothers, the real-life Wright brothers. There's no point if I don't look at what's inside. I have to open it. With your permission, Soren, here I go. Yikes. Oh, it's just the page Maya got all stained. But I guess it's not going to be very helpful at this moment. I'll keep going. This is the last page where there's writing. Something about this page doesn't sit right with me. I better take a closer look. There's a page torn out of it. Also, I should look at this. Nothing special about the cover. Okay. Huh? A page has been torn out. And it looks like there was something written on it. It looks like a page has been torn out here. Mr. Sprocket, do you know what was written on it? Oh, that? I often tear out a page when I write somebody a note. I probably wrote something down for somebody, tore it out, and gave it to them. Oh yeah. That solves that then.
Objection!
Wait a minute. We can't ignore the possibility that something important was written on that page.
But now that the page has been torn out, how can we determine what was written there?
Well, let's see. To find out what was written in the notebook, we should... Usually you, lightly rub charcoal or lead on it. Right, so if you wrote down, there would be bleed through to the next page. Could you see? The indents through the light, I wonder, I guess. I mean, it's better than heating it up with a lighter. It's not invisible ink, man. And fingerprint powder, well... the powder could nestle in the grooves of the page behind? I don't know. Let's try the light. I know, we should hold the notebook up to the light. I don't see a thing.
What are you flailing about over there for, Mr. Wright?
No, just a minute, Your Honor. Just need a little more time to...
Mr. Wright, this court does not accept answers in the form of a pantomime.
I think the judge misinterpreted my movements. Alright, let's try it again. If we use fingerprint powder on the notebook, we might be able to see what was written.
Fingerprint powder? How would that help us find out what was written here?
Well, if the writing left indentations on the blank page behind it, okay. Fingerprint powder could make those small indentations visible to the naked eye. Oh, stop. Fingerprint powder would only sully the notebook further.
Mr. Wright, if you use the powder and still don't find anything, then you must accept the notebook as a representation of the witness's memories.
All right, Your Honor. I understand. If I don't find anything, it's all over anyway. Powder, don't fail me now. I will now use fingerprint powder on the blank page to find out if we can see what was written on the torn out page. First, I'll apply some fingerprint powder to those pages with A. When I've dusted on enough powder, I'll use blow to blow the excess powder away. If something should appear, I should switch to analyze mode, point to what came up, then confirm my choice. Okay. No! Okay, I know I've prattled on a bunch about perfectly copying handwriting, but maybe this one doesn't match the rest of Soren's handwriting, maybe. It says, I struck and killed Dumas. This is huge! I struck and killed Dumas. That's what was written on the torn out page. What? It can't be. I don't believe it. There has to be some kind of mistake. Soren would never, could never. Miss Wyatt.
Bailiff, please get the defendant to the infirmary at once. Apparently, the defendant got too worked up. She's resting in the infirmary as we speak. Now then, please continue, Mr. Wright.
Yes, Your Honor. This notebook is all Mr. Sprocket has to remember things by. Yeah, probably for the best that Ellen's not in the room for the rest of this. With this critical page torn out, not even Mr. Sprocket himself knew the truth of what he'd done. I'm the one who killed Dumas? So it wasn't Ellen. Oh, thank goodness. Mr. Sprocket, does this mean you were at the crime scene during the murder after all? I guess I must have been. But, Mr. Sprocket, can we really believe what's written in this notebook? Nobody touches this notebook but me, and when I sleep it's under lock and key. I don't remember writing that I killed Dumas, but I guess I must have.
Well, now that we have a confession, I'm afraid I must render my verdict.
Of all of the... Yes, Your Honor. Please give your ruling now while Ellen is asleep. I want the woman I love to be set free as soon as possible. Soren really does love Ellen after all, doesn't he? Yeah. So this is how it ends. But is that how it really went down? Is there really no way for them both to be happy?
I know we should consider anything written in the notebook to be the truth, but still.
I myself wrote of the crime in my notebook. No further proof is necessary. Soren himself wrote it in his notebook. Wait a minute.
Very well. I will now give my verdict.
Ellen is about to be found not guilty, and Soren will be convicted for the crime instead. And yet, am I really ready for the judge to give his ruling? No. No, not when there's still one more avenue left to explore.
This court finds a defendant, Ellen.
Your Honor, there's still something that bothers me about that notebook.
Oh, is there?
What are you doing, Mr. Wright? All you have to do is keep quiet and your client's a free woman. I know, but I think there might be more to this case than meets the eye. I'm not quite sure yet, but I think there still might be a way. A way for Ellen and Soren to be happy.
What do you mean by more than meets the eye, Mr. Wright?
I believe the question here, Your Honor, should be, why was the incriminating page torn out in the first place?
Why, to destroy the evidence, I would imagine.
But removing it from the notebook is the same as removing it from Mr. Sprocket's memory, which means he wouldn't have been able to trick the police if he came under suspicion. No, if he wanted to cover up his crime, he would have to remember that he had done it. Just what are you getting at with this line of inquiry, Mr. Wright?
Yes, please explain it so that we can all understand.
Yes, Your Honor. The page was torn out of the notebook because somebody else tore it out. The incriminating page was torn out by somebody else.
What? Order? Order! Are you claiming a third person interfered with the notebook?
It's not all that surprising if you consider what's happened up until now. After both the car accident and the murder of Dumas Gloomsbury, there was always a cover-up not far behind. But I had my notebook with me at all times. Did you? Because I remember you were in a panic yesterday because you couldn't find it. That's true.
So, who orchestrated this particular cover-up, Mr. Wright?
If we think back over the course of the trial, it's pretty easy to guess. The one who may have tried to tamper with Soren's memories is...
Take that!
the one who tampered with the notebook in order to manipulate Mr. Sprocket's memory is Pierce Nickety. Oh, is his name supposed to be Persnickety? I think it is. Ah, yeah, that's good for a snooty butler. Pierce? Pierce tried to tamper with my memories? Pierce was manipulating me? Case in point, the two receptions that were held to cover up the murder. It was Mr. Nickety who directed the guests and orchestrated the entire scheme. No, it can't be. Which of my memories are mine and which have been rewritten? When did he start rewriting my memories? Who wrote this? And this? And this? And this? And this? And this? And this? Uh-oh. Yeah! Blast off! Cool! I want me one of those. He literally took off. Ah, what? Look, Nick, he's coming back down. My memories. Ellen. Mr. Sprocket.
Bailiff, please get Mr. Sprocket to the infirmary, on the double. Mr. Sprocket has been taken to the infirmary. We don't have to worry about him running away, so let us resume where we left off.
Your Honor, the defense would like to call Pierce Nickety to the stand.
Objection!
We already know he carried out the cover-up to protect the company and Mr. Sprocket. What more do you want from him? This time it's different. The notebook, or rather Mr. Sprocket's memories, have been tampered with. That means the only person who knows the whole truth is now Mr. Nickety. Don't tell me, are you actually trying to drum up a third suspect in order to exonerate the defendant and her groom? I'm not drumming up anything, nor do I have grounds to accuse him of anything. Yet. All I know is that Mr. Nickety is the only one who knows the truth. And I think he's still hiding something. Something we don't know about yet. No grounds yet, is it?
Well, Mr. Edgeworth, does the prosecution consent to calling the witness to the stand?
It does, Your Honor. However, I would like a little time to talk with the witness before we do.
Very well. We will break for a 20-minute recess.
Sounds good to me. To be continued. Oh, I think we're in the last home stretch. I think we're in the last stretch. Oh, man. Now we'll have to face Pierce on the stand. I'm not sure if I should be surprised or not. One thing's for sure, he won't be an easy adversary. So, do you think Pierce did it? It's too early to say anything at this point, but I do think he's still hiding something. Nick! Why didn't you pin everything on Soren Loser back there? Looks like Larry still hasn't given up on Ellen. If this Pierce guy is the real bad guy, then Soren and my Ellie will live happily ever after together. Larry, that's not the kind of thing a decent human being says. Shame on you, Larry. Oh, boo-hoo. You think I don't know? I know I have to give up on my Ellie. But Nick, promise you'll make her happy. She deserves a happily ever after. I'm sure Soren will make her happy once all of this is said and done. The trial's about to resume, Mr. Wright. All right. You ready, Maya? Yep, let's go. I'll be rooting for you, Nick. Thanks, Larry.
This court is now back in session. Witness, please take the stand. You. Please state your name and occupation.
My name is Pierce Nickety. I am the Sprocket family butler. Let's get straight to the point, Mr. Nickety. Someone tore out a page from Mr. Sprocket's notebook to manipulate his memories. And that person was you, wasn't it? That is correct. What about it? Well, that was easy. So why did you do it? Why did you tamper with Mr. Sprocket's notebook? Please allow me to explain. It pains me to do this, but I will tell you the truth. It pains you? That is correct. For my testimony will go against Master Soren's wishes. Soren's wishes? What is he talking about? I think he's taking a small hit to get away with a big score. I rushed to the Vista deck, but the crime had already been committed. I saw Miss Ellen and Bloomsbury collapsed and Master Soren writing in his notebook. Master Soren said to me, "I'll take the blame for the murder, so please take care of Ellen." But I went against his order. I tore the page out of his notebook and hid the body. Wait a second. What Mr. Sprocket was writing in his notebook at the time, could it be... It was meant to be a confession, an admission he had killed Bloomsbury himself. He wrote that message to take the blame for Miss Wyatt? That is correct. Master Soren did hit Bloomsbury with a timekeeper to save Miss Ellen. Then Mr. Sprocket was the culprit after all. However, that blow did not kill Bloomsbury. That makes sense. Mr. Sprocket's injury wouldn't allow him to put much force into it. Enraged, Bloomsbury tried to attack Master Soren, who was already seriously wounded. But just in the nick of time, Miss Ellen hit Bloomsbury from behind, and finished him off, it would seem. So the one who inflicted the fatal blow was the defendant. Yes, that is correct. But Master Soren tried to take all of the blame onto himself. No way! This is pretty bad, Nick. No kidding. Pretty bad is an understatement. Well, well, Mr. Wright. It seems your decision to call for Mr. Nickety has backfired. For the true culprit behind this case remains the defendant, Ellen Wyatt. Ah! Could this get any worse? But Pierce was involved in the cover-up plot, and I bet he still has something to hide. Bit of awkward timing, but sure, I'll go on a little longer. I rushed to the Vista deck, but the crime had already been committed.
Hold it!
Wait a minute. I thought you went to the Vista deck with Mr. Sprocket. Actually, that is not true. What? What do you mean? I found this out afterward, but Master Soren went to the Vista deck alone. He went out the escape hatch in the reception hall and went along the outside wall. What? You can't be serious. You mean Mr. Wright's addle-pated guess was actually correct? What's with the addle-pated?
I suppose truth really is stranger than fiction.
So, Mr. Nickety, when you got to the scene, you saw Mr. Bloomsbury, Miss Wyatt, and Mr. Sprocket. Is that right? That is exactly right. I saw Miss Ellen and Bloomsbury collapsed and Master Soren writing in his notebook.
Hold it!
So when you and your group arrived at the Vista deck, the murder had already been committed. That is correct. Bloomsbury had already been struck. Miss Ellen had lost consciousness, probably from the shock of the incident. And how did Mr. Sprocket appear? He was bleeding from the stab wound he'd received from Bloomsbury. Barely conscious, he was writing something in his notebook. So the mysterious third person Ellen saw really was Soren, then. Master Soren said to me, "I'll take the blame for the murder, so please take care of Ellen."
Hold it!
So Mr. Sprocket wrote a note of confession in order to take the blame for Miss Wyatt? Yes. That notebook is the only form of memory Master Soren has, so you understand what his action meant, I trust. What did it mean, Nick? To Soren, everything in that notebook is true, so Soren tried to take the blame by altering his own memory to make himself think he did it. No! Master Soren truly loves Miss Helen. It must have been love that made him do that. But I went against his order. I tore the page out of his notebook and hid the body.
Hold it!
Mr. Nickety, could you please tell this court about that in more detail? That, you say? Which part do you mean, Mr. Wright? Could you be more specific? Oh, all right. What part do I want to know more about? Hiding the body. Because this would mean he had to drag the body all the way up to the reception hall, through the entire place, through the cabins. Please tell me more about the hiding of the body. Very well. After saying he would take the blame, Master Soren passed out. That's when I hid the body. I quickly took the lift down to the hold, where I hid Bloomsbury's still warm body in the spare peggable lantern. So it was you who hid the body, not the defendant. To think Mr. Butts would move the lantern containing the body to the reception hall. Well, I did not see that coming. I don't blame you. Not even Larry can predict what Larry will do next. Maybe I should take another look at the lantern and evidence.
Mr. Wright, would you like that statement added to the witness's testimony?
Sure. Yes, please.
Very well. Please add that statement to your testimony, Mr. Nickety.
In the hold, I hid the still warm body in the spare peggable lantern.
Hold it!
Why did you hide the body in the lantern? As I told you yesterday, it was to make it as though the murder never happened. But thanks to Mr. Butts, things did not turn out as planned. So holding the second wedding reception wasn't Mr. Sprocket's idea, but yours, wasn't it? It was all for Master Soren's sake, and Sprocket Aviation. If I'm accused of a crime for trying to cover up the incident, I shall accept it willingly. He really doesn't seem to even care about himself. So he's talking about the cover-up after the incident, huh? Right. That's information only somebody who was actually involved could know. So it might be a really important piece of testimony. I think so too. I'll really have to tread carefully here. Right, so half of this does seem to make sense. Soren passed out, apparently. Therefore, when he woke up, his memories would be gone. So it makes sense to tear out part of the note that declared that he did it, and then Pierce would stage a second reception to fool the amnesiac Soren, so... That sequence of events does make a shocking amount of sense, so I need to hedge my bets on something being up with the way he stored the body. You hid the body in the peggable lantern. Hold on. Is that a pega bull or a pega cow? I can't tell. How large is that horn? Okay, pega cow has way smaller horn. That looks pretty large, I think. Okay, no. The pega cow has a single dot for an eye with some eyelashes. That's a pega bull. That is a pega bull. However, I'm not sure we can believe that Dumas was dead at this point. The wheel, the unpainted wheel, which is now falsely, incorrectly placed on the outside, was meant to be inside, and inside, Dumas Gloomsbury, who had a bloody hand from stabbing Soren. That's how that blood got on that wheel, I think. Someone gripped it with a bloody hand. So this says, the still warm body. You could take that to mean corpse, right? If I can show this off and say, hey, no, Gloomsbury was not dead yet, that would be huge, but it does feel a bit tangential. So, hold on. Take another look at the lantern in evidence. Yeah, I think the game is steering me to want to say this.
Objection!
Yes! Could it be? Is that what happened? If what I'm thinking is true, then maybe I can prove neither Ellen nor Soren did the deed. Mr. Nickety, you said the body was still warm when you hit it, correct? So then, what if Mr. Gloomsbury was still alive when you went to put his body inside the lantern? What? What? That's preposterous. Actually, this shows that the victim might have still been alive while inside the lantern.
I'm afraid you'll have to point out which part you're talking about, Mr. Wright.
This part here shows that the victim might have still been alive inside the lantern.
Take that!
As you can see, the back end of the lantern is a door. And there's blood here on the wheel handle.
Objection!
That bloodstain must have gotten there when the witness put the body inside the lantern. It in no way shows that the victim drew his last breath while he was within the lantern. I disagree, Mr. Edgeworth, for you see, in putting this lantern back together, the police inadvertently placed the inside handle on the outside and vice versa. In other words, the wheel handles got swapped.
Oh my! So they got swapped.
Yes, they got swapped. What? But that's ridiculous. Not at all. If you compare the other male Pegabo lantern in the reception hall, it's quite obvious the wheel handles were attached backwards. The detective in charge of the restoration will see me in my office later. Sorry, Emma, and good luck.
In that case, what does the bloodstain on the wheel handle mean?
The bloodstain didn't get there by chance. When the victim was put inside the lantern, he was only unconscious, not dead. When he regained consciousness, he probably tried to get out of the lantern. So he grasped the inner wheel handle, and that's when the blood got on it. This proves that the victim was still alive when he was inside the lantern. At the time, I was completely convinced Gloomsbury was dead. Had I checked more carefully, he might have survived. Unfortunate, to be sure, but not significant enough to change this trial's outcome. Again, I disagree, Mr. Edgeworth. It actually has a very significant impact on this case. The victim was struck by the defendant, then died from his injuries sometime later. There is nothing more to it.
Objection!
That's where you're wrong. Let's take another look at Mr. Gloomsbury's autopsy report, shall we? please focus on the description of his injuries. It says 1 contusion was found on the back of the head and 1 on the side. Yes, the one Mr. Sprocket gave him and the one Miss Wyatt delivered to finish him off. No, the defense would like to submit a different interpretation.
A different interpretation?
The victim was knocked unconscious by the first blow, and then was put in the lantern.
Then what about the lethal blow by the defendant that the witness talked about?
Yes, well, that didn't happen. After some time, when the victim regained consciousness and tried to get out of the lantern, that's when he received the second blow that finished him off.
Taking into account the fact that the victim was alive for a period after the first hit, and that he did receive a second blow to the head, it does seem entirely possible.
Yes, as long as the first blow didn't kill the victim instantly, then there's a possibility that someone other than Mr. Sprocket or Miss Wyatt delivered the fatal blow.
Objection!
That's all you've got. Even if there was a time lag between the 2 blows, the prosecution's position doesn't change. What? What do you mean? It's elementary, Mr. Wright. After their reception, when the defendant was cleaning up the reception hall, the victim, who was supposed to be dead, suddenly came out of the lantern. The defendant grabbed the murder weapon, which was right there, and finished him off.
That theory sounds awfully familiar.
Of course it does, Your Honor, because it's exactly what I proposed at the very start. Hold on. If he emerged after the second reception when Ellen was staying back to clean things up, that would be after the dry ice machine blanketed him in cold, which threw off the time of death in the autopsy report. Therefore, he must have still died before the second reception. I think I got it. The second blow was inflicted by the defendant after all.
I see. It seems a tangle of mysteries has unraveled into a single thread.
Objection!
But as long as there's a possibility that the fatal blow was delivered by a third person, then we must continue the deliberations. Give it up, Mr. Wright, unless you have something to prove the presence of your precious third person. Okay, Nick, just relax. You can do this. Come on now, take some deep breaths. Good idea. Deep breaths. Deep breaths. There, don't you feel better already? Maya's right. I should calm down, get my focus back, and go over everything again. And then hopefully I'll be able to find something to prove there was a third person. Let's see. Well, if we're going to do a little recap here, this is probably a good place to end things for now. So, dare I say it, I think I have largely cracked this case. There's surely a few details I'm unaware of, but between Pierce writing down fake notes and my idea with a dry ice machine fog detailing that the fatal blow must have occurred before Ellen was cleaning up after their second reception, I think I mostly got this nailed, I think. Then again, hubris becomes before the fall, so... No, wait, it's pride becomes before the fall. You know, both fit. My Prubris. Hubride. Yeah, Hubride. My Hubride comes before the fall. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Well, dare I say it, we might only have like 2 videos worth of footage left to go before the finale? My God. Isn't that funny? Huh. Well, anywho, again, after the finale and I wrap up this final DLC case here, I am still planning a special bonus video where we take a deep dive into the gallery, the gallery and all the concept art and stuff. And after that, we also got a special tier list ranking where I rank every Ace Attorney character. So we're not too far away from the absolute end, but we're pretty goddamn close. My God. Oh wow. Well, you've heard plenty of me just going, oh wow, over this, so maybe enough of that. I'm Zephyr the Jester. This has been more Spirit of Justice. Thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll catch you next time. So until then, please take care.